All right, let's get started. Thank you for joining the marketing show. My name is Matthew Kilmurry, founder and CEO of apartmentgeofencing.com and hotelgeofencing.com, and I'm your host. We've got an exciting show today on a topic around aligning operations and marketing and all the things related to that. And so let's go ahead and dig in. Joining us today is Autumn Hunt. Welcome to the show, Autumn.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
This is a topic I could talk about all the time, especially coming from the operator side, now being on the service side. There's so much to dig into here. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce Autumn a little bit more. Autumn is the director of marketing at Resi, where she's on a mission to revolutionize how property marketers create, measure, and deliver impactful digital experiences to residents. Resi creates marketing software and top of the funnel digital experiences that attract, engage, and convert prospective renters. In her previous role, she was the head of marketing for a multifamily operator where she transformed their marketing, leasing, and innovation efforts. In her free time, you can find her cooking a new meal, starting a new house project, or spending time with her husband and daughter. Welcome, Autumn.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I noticed it says starting a new house project. Do you finish these house projects?
Right now we're at the point where it's like we've got to finish a few more before we start one more, but we're itching to get some new cabinets like in the back of our pantry for some additional storage before winter sets in. I'm in the Midwest, so it could snow anytime and winter can set in anytime. So
I'm a serial house project starter, so I'm
yeah.
with you. Okay, we got to finish some of these. Well, I love that you came from the operator side. Now you're on the service side, providing consultation back to operators who are looking to navigate all things marketing. And so, in your experience, what is kind of that biggest challenge in aligning marketing and operation teams, especially when it comes to driving revenue and property performance?
Yeah, I think the answer to this is highly nuanced depending on the operator and the people at the table. But what was true for me and what I often see as common themes is a few things. So one of the big ones being common language around marketing, particularly around strategy and digital tactics. And this is a big one, I think, is understanding what marketing is in today's day and age as much as what marketing isn't anymore, or really like what's not a priority or things that we focus on. The second being setting goals and understanding the depth of the technical side that good marketing is today. Um, Marketing having a seat at the strategy table to help drive revenue versus marketing being seen as like a cost and production center.
Yeah.
And then the very last thing is marketing understanding and assisting broader organizational and individual property goals to be able to provide appropriate and proactive management of each asset.
Yeah, the earlier that we can get involved, the better. How many times have you gotten an email? Oh, here's a new property. It was already acquired, and here's where it is, and this is what you have to work with. And you're just like, oh,
Yeah.
somebody come talk to me first.
Yep. And then
Uh,
you need a new website in a week. And marketers usually like they need to start from ground zero. They need to have a lot of fundamental questions answered before they can get going with other things. So we very often like there are fires in marketing, and would be a fire in marketing where they're dropping what they're doing so that they could go back and start to understand the fundamentals, just start driving that strategy.
I think for me, what I struggled with the most is it felt like marketing operations had two different languages, right?
Hmm.
And on the operator side, they're really just looking for language to help them because they need help communicating with asset managers, ownership groups, executives. And so on their side, they're talking about NOI. On our side, we're talking about shared voice and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
And so I do think, education, being in the same rooms at the moments that matter so that we can have
Mhm.
like a common language internally is really important in aligning. Because how can you align if you're
Mhm.
both speaking different languages?
Yeah, I often think about how separate marketing and what is the sales team, like the leasing team, which usually sits under, operations and that whole part of the organization in multifamily on the operator and management side versus like B2B organizations and some other even like B2C organizations and how closely aligned marketing and sales is. So it's a bit unique that they can be so fragmented on the owner, operator, and management side. And you have to be very intentional about making those two functions align very closely.
Yep. Yeah, it has to be very intentional. And so what are some of the ways that you've seen, marketing and operations get aligned, they've successfully collaborated, and then how has that impacted performance?
Yeah. So taking a step back just from like a single example, I'd like to share a framework that I found really impactful in my time on the other side. Um, so I established strategic, but specifically performance marketing functions, and I think that tied in leasing and operations and the strategy part, and put that at the forefront of a lot of efforts. So previous to this function and initiative being created, for example, when a property was underperforming, it would very often go through the regional manager or the property manager. They would sign an ILS contract, or sometimes that would go to marketing, and sometimes without question, marketing would sign on the dotted line to go from like a platinum to a diamond, right? And in the hopes that that would solve the lead or lease issues that they have on site. And so there were a lot of reasons, and I think we can all like think in our head, like there's so many reasons why this is not the most effective solution. So instead, to ensure that marketing, management, and on-site teams were quite literally on the same page, we took a few-prong approach to solving for this. So the first thing is that we established comprehensive and prescriptive reporting with some newly established KPIs between these groups of people. And this served as a standard and central point of understanding between marketing and leasing performance and how those two would work together. The second thing is we closely aligned marketing and training in the organization, like at a corporate level, to ensure that our sales training and efforts and our technology tech stack was nurturing and converting leads through their journey. So all of these pieces were in alignment and not in argument with each other. The third thing was creating a role of a performance marketing initiative, which proactively monitored availability, occupancy, lead show, and application volume and renewal rates so that marketing could anticipate taking appropriate measures before we were already behind in taking those appropriate measures. And then, so what all of this did together is we saw immense amount of leasing improvement, optimized and proactive marketing initiatives, improved communication across the board. We were quite literally on the same page for the first time. There was less time being wasted because there were less cooks in the kitchen on these conversations. And ultimately, what we found is there was a decrease in cost per acquisition because we could use our dollars more wisely because we just had a better understanding of what was working. So overall, it was a more effective marketing and leasing function from the get-go.
It's so important to align training with that because there are marketing tactics and functions that need to be operationalized. And one of the best uses of this I've seen was with Bazzuto, where they wanted the on-site team to be responding to any of the reviews online.
Mm-hmm.
And so they, talking about why it's important and tone of voice and kind of all that stuff, it becomes almost like too much,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially across, hundreds of properties. And so really boiling that down to a number that everybody can get behind, which is a 100% response rate. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
our goal. And so then you get everybody's efforts aligned in one way, training, marketing, operations, and you're going towards that 100% response rate. And then you can like tweak the nuances of the type of response and which templates you're going to use and kind of all the things that go with it. But it was everybody got on the same goal. And for
Yeah.
us, for marketing, we think of it as the 100% response rate is great because it shows we're active, we're going to get more leads. On the operations side, they want that information to help improve what's happening at the property. So we had different uses for it, but it was all kind of the same path, which was great.
Yeah. And another key piece too, and Bobby Stewart mentioned this at AIM. She presented on it, and I forget exactly what the metric was, but more often than not, marketing is owning the tech stack on the operator or management side, which very much makes sense. And in my organization, marketing managed the tech stack as well, especially as it intersected with marketing and sales and leasing, to make sure that, again, the tech stack was in alignment and that we were looking at everything through the lens of being able to acquire, convert, and retain a resident.
Right. Yeah. So speaking of tech stacks, with every new tech stack that you're using is another set of metrics. Um, and so, now there's thousands of metrics across all these different platforms. And so what metrics or, those key performance indicators, KPIs, do you think that marketing operations can agree on and so that they can evaluate success together?
Yeah. I've always been in the camp that you can measure everything under the sun. That doesn't mean that everything under the sun is important to measure because you can have very quick overload with KPIs. And so, first and foremost, starting with your goals. It sounds simple in what you read in a business book, but it's so often like not executed that way is what are your goals and making sure that you're choosing KPIs that aligns with those goals. And then the rest can often be just a distraction. And so the most fundamental ones, and I won't belabor the point, are the lead, show, applicant volume, conversion ratios in between. And that is very much like the prospect life cycle, but even the resident life cycle portion, retention rate, from a financial perspective, rent growth rate, and then one of particular importance, especially as of late, I would say the last 3 to 5 years, is resident and prospect experience measures. So if you're sending surveys and you have both that quantitative and qualitative data to help support like what your marketing and sales initiatives should be. And there's a whole other layer of reporting, especially for marketing, that's really important. It helps inform our decisions, but doesn't necessarily hit or impact or is often read by operations. So for example, like GA4 data, that's pretty nuanced data that a marketer most often would understand versus operations. So you have all these KPIs. What we did and what I recommend to other people frequently is creating reporting that measures the digital journey that a prospect would take, particularly across acquisition, and then being able to sort that data out on like a source, property, submarket level, so on and so forth. And then again, kind of circling back to the the performance marketer perspective, that performance marketer can now glean really, really specific insights about what action can be taken to better acquire, convert, and retain residents.
Yeah. Well, like you said about the performance marketer looking at the data for actions, because really for me, all the different metrics are just levers, right? Like as a marketer, we're moving levers to help impact performance downstream, right? And that can be overwhelming for folks in operations because they have their own set of metrics we never even see, right? And so, there's this sense that we want them to know what we're doing. So here's all of our metrics. And it's like, it's too much. But I do think, and we've been trying to educate the industry for years around this, that we've always been kind of relegated to like bottom of funnel tactics in multifamily because of fair housing, right? And so we can't do what everyone else does in kind of traditional media buying. So we're just going to buy leads on ILSs and we're going to look at like, cost per lead, cost per lease. But with the advent of digital, especially what we do in like mobile location marketing, but now in content or behavior, kind of all those things that are fair housing safe, it creates the ability to do some of those more top of funnel strategies. But I think those are still kind of a lot of questions from asset managers and owners and saying, hey, what is my cost per lease on this tactic, right?
Yeah.
So I do think it's good for us to start creating some shared language like, okay, we have a budget and we're going to put 60% towards leads. We're going to put X percent towards sentiment and X percent towards branding awareness and having, top metrics, top of line metrics like share of voice, brand visibility, just things like that, so that those types of marketing, tactics that we want to be able to deploy across kind of a healthy marketing campaign, the folks in operations are like, yeah, okay, that makes sense to me. They start to understand that, but at the same time, not to deluge them with, okay, here's impressions and users reached and landing page visits and
Yeah,
sessions. And they're like, what does
it's
all
too
this mean?
much.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
too much.
yeah. And then another thing that I did too, because there's so much more that goes into the prospect journey than first touch attribution. And I think because that is so readily available in PMS systems
Yeah.
as like a source of truth for marketing return on marketing. And let's see, what year is it? In 2023, I believe, January 1st, I said, if first touch reporting exists in any of our reporting, two things are going to happen. We're removing it from reporting and we're not going to talk about it anymore because it's flawed and it's just giving us the wrong idea of about where exactly acquisition efforts are coming from. We'll provide additional reporting for more of like a multi-touch attribution model and some other things. So
Yeah, I love that. And when I talk to our cousins in hospitality across, when they're doing national, regional, local hotel campaigns, this is already part of their mindset. Like they know that they have to do each part of the piece of the funnel and they have to be in each place. Otherwise, they're going to be paying more for kind of bottom of the funnel when people
yeah.
go. For them, it's on the OTAs, they call them, booking.com,
Mhm.
Expedia. There's a lot of synergies, but I do think that there's a lot there that we can still learn about kind of the thinking around it. I could
Mhm.
talk about this for forever.
I know.
Um, but we have run out of time. I do want to say, though, that these are topics that are going to be explored by ourselves and by Resi at, conferences coming up at OpTech and AIM and Multifamily Marketing East. So, come to some of the conferences. We're really digging into these. We want to be able to help our clients kind of perform better and navigate these things with their operations team. So,
Yeah.
Autumn, thank you so much. And I hope that you're able to finish your cabinets before the first thaw freeze comes.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I do too. I got to finish a few more projects up first.
And thank you to everyone who joined us today. I really appreciate it. And I'll be here again next week. And until then, enjoy the journey, my friends.